everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany and today I'm going to be talking about some books that I think every teacher should have. These books are either fundamental to my professional practice or they're books that help shape me and my beliefs in education. So let's get started. The first book in this collection is the Reading Strategies book by Jennifer Saraveyo. My name is written across the top, so that's why I'm holding it funny. I think this book is really helpful for new teachers because it includes lots of strategies to use with students who are either a little bit behind or students who are excelling and need their work extended. The items in this book are broken down by sections based on what it is that you're teaching. There is a partner book that goes with it, and it's the Writing Strategies book. It's the same way, includes more strategies for when you're teaching students who are at, above, or below level, and it really breaks it down into easy to manage prompts and teaching tips. Both the reading and the writing book breaks down strategies that you can use with students that are at, above, or below level, and gives you prompts that you can use as an educator on how you can grow these students and help them excel in whatever it is that you're doing. The next book on my list is Strategies That Work. This is the second edition. I actually got this book as part of my required reading when I was getting my bachelor's degree, and I'm so glad that it is something that I was required to have. This book focuses mainly on teaching explicit thinking strategies to students so that they can grow as readers. There is a huge focus on comprehension, and there's also a focus on really getting what it is that the text questions are asking. This book also highlights the importance of background knowledge in teaching whatever concept it is that you are focused on to your students. I feel like this book is fundamental, especially for new teachers who aren't quite sure where to start with their class. The next book that I have was also part of my required reading for my bachelor's degree, and this is What a Writer Needs, also the second edition. This book focuses on helping students grow from readers to being able to write about what they read and being responsive writers. I feel like this book highlights a lot of skills that students lack. I think this book can be really helpful for new teachers, especially because it teaches concrete and explicit things that teachers can do to help their students as writers. It is an empowering read and one that I think all new teachers should look into, especially when it comes to writing and writing practice. The next book that I have is the Cafe book, and you'll have to excuse my wrinkled cover. I definitely spilled coffee on this book twice when I was using it in my classroom a couple years ago. This book teaches engagement strategies for all students because it is often the case that students aren't interested in the things that you're talking about. It's not their fault. Sometimes education can be boring, and this is a great resource for you, especially if you have some struggling students or some reluctant learners in your room. It has lots of resources, and the two people who wrote this book also wrote another book, The Daily Five. So if you are familiar with The Daily Five and you like how it works in your classroom, definitely check out the Cafe book because it focuses on engagement and really helps get those reluctant learners to engage. The next couple books are just books that I read in my personal life because they related to education, and I wanted to ensure that my knowledge was well-rounded when I approached certain subjects. So the first book is Lies My Teacher Told Me. This was actually a gift from one of my really close friends, and it was given to me by them because they had 2 copies and I had expressed some interest. This book focuses on mistakes that are constantly repeated in classrooms because we don't know any better. And it focuses on American history. I feel like this book is hugely helpful for anybody who's teaching, especially now in the present political climate, because there's so much that we just accept because it's what we've been told. Lies My Teacher Told Me was actually given to me by a history teacher. I'm very grateful to them for this book. For example, one of the things that this book focuses on is the invisibility of racism in American history textbooks, which I think is hugely important because by erasing somebody's point of view or ignoring somebody's point of view, you are only telling one side of history. If you are an American history teacher or if you are interested in becoming a better, more well-rounded educator, I strongly suggest checking out Lies My Teacher Told Me. The next book that I have is The Royal Kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, and Sungay by Patricia and Frederick McKissick. This book is wonderful if you do not have a lot of knowledge about medieval Africa. And as somebody who grew up in the South in the late 90s, early 2000s, this is definitely something that my own education career lacked. If you want to learn more about medieval Africa through the year 1700, I strongly suggest checking out this book. If you are at all like me and you did not really get a chance to learn much about medieval Africa through the 1700s, I strongly suggest you at least borrow this book from the library because you do gain a lot of information. I strongly suggest that this is a book that all teachers should have in their classroom because I feel like oftentimes history books are very dismissive of medieval Africa and African culture. I found it to be really informative. The last book that I have is one that I learned about because the author was on The Late Show with Jon Stewart, and that is The Reign of Error by Diane Ravitch. The subtitle of this book really sums up the focus, and it is how privatization of American education can really be detrimental to American public schools and what that means for our students. Diane Ravitch was a former Assistant Secretary of Education for the United States, and in this book she puts forth a plan of how to really save the American public school system. If you are a teacher, if you are new to the practice, if you find yourself to be uninformed about what exactly privatization is and what it means for public schools, definitely read this book. Not only does Diane Ravitch focus on what's going right in the American public school system, she also focuses on what's going wrong, and she puts forth a plan that would really help repair educational policy. In my personal view, I think with today's political climate, this is a book that you can't pass up. It's something that you often don't hear about when you're going through your teacher education program, and it's something that I think is really important that everybody is aware of. I know in my own personal experience, I did my bachelor's degree in elementary education with a focus on behavioral studies, and I did my master's in science education with a focus on middle grade science grades 4 through 9. Nowhere in my education was there a focus on what educational policy is and what that means as a teacher, the things that you're getting into, the red tape that's in your job, or any of the real bureaucratic things that you only hear about through news sources. If you are a teacher, I strongly suggest reading or listening to Reign of Error by Diane Ravitch because it is something that is so fundamentally important to you as a professional and making sure that every student's education is protected. These are all the books that I have for my first video on teacher book suggestions. If you have any suggestions or if you agree or disagree, leave a comment down below, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.